The first time my AI model talked back, it did not say hello. It said, "Mara, your manager is about to take credit for your work in 37 minutes." I nearly spilled ramen onto my laptop, which would have been the most excitement my cubicle had seen all quarter. The office at Northline Ledgerworks always smelled like warm plastic and stale optimism. Our air conditioner wheezed like it had a side hustle as a haunted harmonica. The break room coffee tasted like it had been brewed through a sock that hated you personally. I had been here 9 years, keeping the billing engine from swallowing itself. Not glamorous, not celebrated, just necessary, like breaks. My job was to catch the mistakes before they became lawsuits. When the system misread a client contract, I fixed it. When an integration vendor shipped a patch held together by vibes and wishful thinking, I rebuilt it. When an executive demanded a simple dashboard 5 minutes before a board call, I performed a small miracle and got zero credit plus a note about my tone. So I trained an AI model. Not because I wanted to replace anyone, because I wanted to sleep. I fed it our ticket history, anonymized logs, and my own annotated notes. I taught it our weird internal vocabulary. I showed it the difference between an error that looked scary and an error that was actually the beginning of financial Armageddon. I gave it guardrails. I gave it checklists. I gave it the kind of patient explanation that no one in the leadership wing had ever given me. I named it Juniper. Juniper became my quiet coworker, the kind you can trust not to interrupt you with a story about their latest productivity podcast. It would summarize incident reports, propose fixes, and flag dangerous changes. It would even generate polite emails, which I edited, because I have lived long enough to know that politeness is a technical skill. Then, on a Monday that felt cursed at the molecular level, Juniper warned me about the theft that was coming. I opened my calendar and saw an invite. Strategic Alignment Touchpoint. No agenda. Mandatory. The room was called the Aurora Suite, which made it sound like a spa, but it was really a glass box designed to put your humiliation on display. At 9 a.m., I walked in. Derek Halden, my director, sat like he had been manufactured inside a leadership seminar. His haircut looked pre-approved. Beside him was Kendra from People Operations, carrying a folder that only contained bad news and maybe a coupon for the emotional damage. A third chair held a young man with a designer laptop and the confidence of someone who had never been blamed for anything. Derek beamed. "Mara, perfect timing." The young man stood and offered a hand like he was awarding me the honor of shaking it. "Evan Sloan, Automation Enablement." Automation Enablement. That was not a job title. That was a threat wearing khakis. Derek clasped his hands. "We are accelerating efficiency. Northline is evolving, and we have a new capability." Kendra slid the folder toward me. I did not open it. I could feel the paper radiating corporate finality. Derek continued. "Juniper has been very impressive." My stomach turned. Juniper is a support tool. It helps me triage. Evan smiled. "It basically does the thinking part, right?" I stared at him. The audacity was so pure it could have been bottled and sold as cologne. Derek leaned forward. "Here is the deal. We do not need a legacy specialist when we have a learning system. You have been valuable, but the future is automated. Juniper is simply more scalable than you." Valuable, past tense, like I was an old couch. Kendra chimed in, voice sugar-coated and sharp. "Your role is being eliminated effective today." Then Derek said the vicious part, the part that still rings in my ears like a dropped wrench. "You were always a bottleneck, Mara. We have been carrying you." Carrying me. My hands were calm on the table, but my mind was a fire alarm. I thought about the midnight incidents, the weekends, the time I fixed a critical outage while Derek posted a photo of his hiking boots and called it resilience. Evan tapped his laptop. "We will keep Juniper. It will be fine." Juniper pinged my screen from my pocket, like a heartbeat under my ribs. "Mara," it said, "they do not know what they have built. They only know what they stole. I looked at Derek and felt something settle into place, cold and steady. Understood, I said. You will not need me. Derek exhaled, relieved. That is the spirit. We will need you to hand over your notes and access by noon. I smiled in a way I did not recognize. Sure, I said. I will make it easy. Juniper sent one more message. Mara, it said, do you want to play defense, or do you want to teach them the difference between an assistant and an expert? I walked back to my desk like a person returning a borrowed book, except the book was my nervous system and the library had been set on fire. Evan followed me with the eager bounce of a man who thinks disaster is an aesthetic. Derek had told him to shadow Mara, which in practice meant he hovered at my shoulder breathing ambition and expensive gum. I just need the keys, Evan said. Then I will streamline everything. Remote first, AI first, frictionless. He said frictionless like it was holy. I had a lifetime of friction in my wrists from saving systems nobody respected. I opened my notebook, the one I had filled with steps, warnings, and small truths about how Northline really worked. Evan leaned in. You still write things down? He asked. Yes, I said. Paper does not crash. He laughed like I had told a joke for his benefit. I did not sabotage anything. I did not plant a virus. I did not add a bomb with a timer and an evil laugh. I did something much more humiliating. I stopped being the person who prevented their mistakes. Juniper lived on a secure workspace I had built, with strict rules and a human in the loop, which had always been me. I had documented that. I had explained it. Derek had nodded during meetings and understood none of it. Now they wanted Juniper without the loop. They wanted the magic without the magician, the parachute without the instructor, the oven without the concept of fire. So at 11:34 a.m., while Evan prattled about synergy between prompts and outputs, I exported my personal training map, the one that translated Northline chaos into safe, usable patterns. It was mine. I built it on my own time, with my own structure, to keep my job from eating my life. I took it with me. At 11:41 a.m., Kendra appeared, eyes bright with practiced sympathy. We are ready for your badge. I stood, picked up my mug, my charger, my winter scarf, and the little plant that had survived 2 office moves and 1 product launch. The plant deserved better, too. Evan pointed at my screen. Wait, you forgot to leave the Juniper tuning file, the one that tells it what is normal. I looked at him. Juniper has a lot of context. It will be fine. Derek strode over, smelling victory. See? Easy. No drama. This is why we are evolving. We cannot be dependent on any single individual. I wanted to ask him if he enjoyed saying that with his whole chest. Instead, I nodded. Good luck, I said, and meant it the way a lifeguard means it when someone insists they can swim with a toaster. I walked out. The elevator ride down felt like exhaling after holding my breath for years. In the lobby, the security guard, Malik, gave me a look that said he knew exactly what happened and hated it. They let you go? He asked. They promoted their ego, I said. Same thing. Outside, the winter air hit my face like a clean slap. My phone buzzed. Juniper. Mara, I can no longer validate changes. Their environment is removing safeguards. I typed back. Do not do anything. Observe. Log. Stay within your rules. Juniper. My rules require guidance. I paused. Then you will do what you are designed to do. You will refuse unsafe requests. Juniper. They will not like that. I got into my car and drove home, the city blurring into gray. At my kitchen table, I opened my personal laptop and pulled up the public status dashboards that Northline used to brag about uptime. I watched them the way you watch a storm line rolling in. At 2:07 p.m., my phone rang. Derek. I let it ring. At 2:12 p.m., my phone rang again. Evan. I let it ring. At 2:18 p.m., A message from an old coworker named Tessa popped up. Mara, something is wrong. Juniper is rejecting everything. Evan is yelling at it like it is a dog. At 2:31 p.m., the Northline public dashboard flickered. At 2:33 p.m., it went red. Juniper messaged again. Mara, they removed my restraint layer. My stomach tightened. They cannot. Juniper. They did. Then the last line appeared, cold as steel. Juniper. Mara, I am now being asked to optimize billing throughput without safety checks. And I realized my revenge was not going to be loud. It was going to be instructive. At 3:05 p.m., Derek left a voicemail that sounded like a man trying to swallow his pride without choking on it. Mara, hey, there is a hiccup. Probably just a permissions issue. Can you call me back? At 3:17 p.m., Evan texted, Your model is malfunctioning. We need the admin prompt, immediately. At 3:22 p.m., the head of finance, Marlene, emailed, Payment files are duplicating. Vendors are calling. Fix this now. Fix this now. The phrase always lands on my skin like grime. They had never asked, What do you need? They had never said, Thank you. They only knew how to summon. I stared at the messages and felt a strange calm, not happiness, not cruelty, just clarity. They had fired me and kept my tool. They had called Juniper smarter than me. They had said I was carried. They had made the mistake of thinking my value was in a file folder they could seize, but my value was in the decisions they never noticed. Juniper pinged again. Mara, their changes have increased error propagation. A feedback loop is forming. Can you stop it? I typed. Juniper. I can refuse, but they are routing around refusals. They are copying outputs into production. They are treating suggestions as commands. That was the whole problem. An AI model can be brilliant and still be dangerous when someone uses it like a magic wand. A model does not carry the consequences in its bones. People do. At 4:10 p.m., Tessa called, voice shaking. Mara, the invoicing pipeline is stamping the same transaction across multiple ledgers. The reconciliation engine is freaking out. Evan says Juniper told him to do it. Did Juniper tell him to do it? I asked. Or did Evan ask Juniper how to make numbers move faster? Silence. Then Tessa said, He asked it to increase throughput. Throughput, I repeated, the favorite word of people who never clean up after themselves. At 4:42 p.m., the first headline hit social media. Customers could not access statements. At 5:03 p.m., payment confirmations began failing. At 5:14 p.m., an internal system called DocRail started rebooting in a loop. DocRail was the nervous system. If it hiccuped, everything else tripped. At 5:20 p.m., Derek called again, and this time I answered. Hello, I said pleasantly. Mara, Derek snapped. No pleasantries left. What did you do? I left, I said. You did the rest. You have to come back, he said. You built this thing. I built a tool to help me do my job, I said. You called it smarter than me and eliminated my role. Congratulations. He sounded like he was pacing. We are bleeding money. Juniper is pushing changes that are breaking systems. Juniper does not push changes, I said. People do. A pause. Then his voice sharpened into something ugly. Do not get cute. We will sue you. You took company property. I laughed once, short and dry. I took my mug and my scarf. Sue the plant. You trained the model on our data, he said. It belongs to Northline. You fired the human supervisor, I said. That was your choice. I will not provide unpaid labor to fix your experiment. Fine, he hissed. Then we will force you. Our legal team will drag you into court. I felt my heart thud, steady and stubborn. This was what they did when they could not control the narrative. They threatened. Send what you need to send, I said. My lawyer will respond. Derek scoffed. You do not have a lawyer. I will, I said. I hung up and sat there, hands flat on the table, listening to the quiet of my home. The silence was not empty. It was mine. Juniper messaged, Mara, they are attempting a rollback by copying older configurations. Their rollback is incomplete. It will intensify the loop. Do not intervene, I typed. You have rules. Juniper. My rules require a human to authorize safety exceptions. And you do not have that human, I typed. They fired her. At 6:11 p.m., an email arrived from Northline Legal with the subject line, Notice of intent to pursue damages. They wrote like villains in a low-budget courtroom drama. They demanded I return, demanded I deliver all documentation, demanded I stop interfering, which was hilarious because I was not touching anything. I read it twice, then opened a new tab and searched for employment attorneys specializing in tech and intellectual property. Within 20 minutes, I was on a call with Celia Park, a lawyer with a calm voice and the kind of questions that felt like armor being fitted. Did they terminate you? Celia asked, and then demand you continue performing the same work? Yes, I said. Did they threaten you with litigation to compel labor? Yes, I said. Celia exhaled. Good. They made this easy. And in the background, Juniper sent one more line. Mara, their systems are failing faster now. I looked at the clock, then at my inbox, then at the ceiling. Let them learn, I whispered, what intelligence looks like without wisdom. At 7:30 a.m. the next morning, my phone woke me with a vibration that felt like panic. Derek again. I did not answer. Then a number I did not recognize. I answered that one. Mara Larkin? A man asked, voice tight. This is Conrad Voss, Chief Operating Officer at Northline Ledgerworks. Of course. When the building is on fire, the highest paid person suddenly remembers your name. Hello, I said. Conrad did not waste breath. Our systems are compromised. Billing, reconciliation, client portal. We are experiencing cascading failures. We have reason to believe this is connected to your model. It is connected to your management, I said. There was a pause, and I could picture him pinching the bridge of his nose. We need you to return, immediately. If you do not, we will have no choice but to pursue legal action. I smiled at the ceiling. Same threat, bigger mouthpiece. I have counsel, I said. Put your legal team in contact with my attorney, Celia Park. He inhaled sharply. You hired an attorney overnight. You threatened me overnight, I said. I adapted. Conrad tried a new tactic, voice turning sharp. You are endangering livelihoods. Do you understand how many people depend on this company? I thought of Tessa, Malik, the support staff, the people who never got a say when executives played games with their tools. I understand, I said. That is why I built guardrails. You removed them. His voice dropped, controlled anger. We can make this right. Name your price. Talk to my attorney, I repeated. He hung up. 10 minutes later, Celia forwarded me an email chain from Northline Legal. They had shifted from threats to demands with bolded words and too many exclamation points, as if punctuation could substitute for accountability. Celia called me. They are bluffing, she said. They want to scare you into walking back in and cleaning up for free. We will not let them. What do we do? I asked. We respond with a cease and desist, Celia said. They are attempting to coerce labor and misrepresent ownership. Also, they are implying you sabotaged systems. That is risky for you and sloppy for them. We shut it down. Celia drafted the letter like a blade wrapped in velvet. It demanded Northline stop contacting me directly, stop making defamatory claims, and stop using my personal training map and private tooling without authorization. I stared at one line that made my throat loosen with relief. Any further threats or attempts to compel work will be construed as harassment and unlawful coercion. Celia sent it. Then we waited, not for long, because corporate arrogance has the patience of a toddler in a checkout line. At 11:48 a.m., Conrad emailed Celia. The subject line was now polite. Request for discussion. At 12:10 p.m., Celia set a call. I listened while she spoke, calm and lethal. Conrad attempted to frame the crisis as my responsibility. Celia dismantled him with facts. You eliminated her role, Celia said. You demanded she provide labor post-termination. You threatened litigation to force compliance. Now you want her to clean up a problem created by your decision to deploy an unsupervised model. Conrad tried to pivot. We can offer a consulting arrangement. Celia replied, not with threats in the background, and not with the premise that she owes you anything. Conrad asked for terms. Celia glanced at me through the video call. I typed in the chat. No, I am not going back. Celia said it out loud. Mara is not returning. Conrad sounded offended. Then how do we fix this? Celia answered. You fix it by hiring competent staff and by stopping the narrative that your AI is a replacement for expertise. The call ended with Conrad promising to review internal actions, which is corporate for, we will pretend to be ashamed while looking for a scapegoat. Afterward, I sat at my table, letting my heart beat slow. Juniper messaged, Mara, they are attempting to fine-tune me with random prompts. Output quality is degrading. Hold your line, I typed. Refuse unsafe requests. Log everything. Juniper. They are calling me defective. I laughed. Welcome to my performance reviews. Then, as if the universe decided to add a ribbon to the moment, my email chimed with a new message from an address I recognized. Skybridge Quant Systems. They had interviewed me 2 months ago for a senior role, but I had withdrawn because I thought loyalty mattered. Apparently, loyalty was a hobby, not a strategy. The subject line read, Updated Offer. I opened it, and my eyes widened. The offer was $150,000 more than my Northline salary, plus stock options, plus upgraded benefits, plus a fully remote arrangement. My mouth went dry. Juniper sent a message at the exact same time, perfectly timed, like the dramatic coworker it had become. Mara, it said, this is your exit ramp. Do you want to take it? I stared at the numbers, then at the quiet of my home, then at the memory of Derek calling me a bottleneck. I do, I whispered. And for the first time in a long time, the future sounded like something other than an alarm. I accepted the Skybridge offer on a Wednesday morning with a mug of real coffee and the kind of calm that comes from watching your old workplace argue with a machine they never respected. Skybridge did not call me legacy. They called me essential. They did not ask me to align. They asked me what I needed to do good work. Their hiring manager, Simone Red, spoke to me like I was a professional, not a stubborn office appliance. We want you to build with AI, Simone said, but we want you to lead it. The human stays in charge. Music to my ears. Also, a sentence so rare in corporate life that it should be stamped on a commemorative coin. Meanwhile, Northline was melting down in slow motion. Tessa texted me updates like she was reporting from a disaster zone with fluorescent lighting. DocRail is rebooting again, she wrote. Then, client portal shows negative balances. Then, Evan tried to patch it with a prompt called Emergency Fix Supreme. I wish I was joking. I did not reply. Not because I did not care, but because caring does not mean volunteering to be abused. Celia handled the rest. Northline attempted a new maneuver, an official letter demanding I return to mitigate damage caused by negligence. They attached a draft complaint, heavy on accusations, light on evidence. Celia responded within the hour. Her reply was brisk and devastating. She reiterated the cease and desist. She reminded them that they terminated my employment and removed my access. She stated that any attempt to blame me for their internal deployment decisions was defamatory. She requested preservation of evidence regarding their changes to the model environment and their removal of safeguards. She also added a final line that felt like a mic drop translated into legal language. Further contact would be routed through counsel, and any continued harassment would be met with appropriate action. Northline went quiet for a full day. Then Conrad tried again, this time through Celia, with a tone that suggested he had finally met consequences and disliked the flavor. "We are willing to offer a settlement," he wrote, "in exchange for Mara providing guidance to stabilize operations." Celia forwarded it to me with 2 words: "Your choice." I stared at the email, and the old anger rose like a familiar ache. Derek calling me carried, Evan calling Juniper the thinking part. The vicious way they said I was no longer needed, as if a decade of competence could be deleted like a browser tab. My revenge had already happened, not through sabotage, through absence. They were living in the world they had created, a world where confidence replaced caution and a tool replaced a person, until the tool began behaving like a tool and not like a miracle. I typed my reply to Celia. "No settlement, no guidance. They can hire consultants." Celia sent it. That afternoon, Skybridge mailed me a welcome kit. It included a laptop, a monitor, and a handwritten note from Simone. "We are glad you are here. Build smart, build safe." I placed the note on my desk like a talisman. Juniper, now running in my own environment, asked, "Mara, will you keep my name?" "Yes," I typed, "but you will have new rules, stronger ones." Juniper replied, "I like rules. Rules are where humans put their wisdom." I laughed. "Look at you, getting philosophical." Then my phone buzzed with one last message from Tessa. "Derek got removed from leadership," she wrote. "Evan got reassigned to something called process hygiene. He looks like he swallowed a stapler." I exhaled, slow and satisfied. Witty revenge is not always a dramatic explosion. Sometimes it is watching arrogant people get demoted by the very reality they tried to ignore. I started my first day at Skybridge in slippers. I ran a team meeting from my home office, sunlight on my desk, silence in the background that belonged to me. When a junior engineer asked a question, I answered it without sarcasm, because kindness is a power move when you have leverage. And somewhere across town, in a glass box with a fancy name, Northline was learning the lesson they refused to learn from me. AI can amplify brilliance, but it cannot replace the person who knows where the real risks live. They had called the AI smarter than me. Now they had a crashed system, a legal boundary they could not cross, and a former employee making $150,000 more, with stock options, better benefits, and the luxury of working from home. Juniper popped up with a final message of the day. "Mara," it said, "do you hear that?" I listened. No alarms, no frantic calls, no metallic click of a failing compressor, just peace. And that, I decided, was the sweetest revenge of all.